Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praise to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahushai. I pray the Most High blesses this lesson this evening. Gives more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past in order to understand the events that are currently happening on the earth. So get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. On our quest for knowledge and returning to our traditions and our heritage, the Most High is opening up understanding and books, that are leading us back to how things used to be. We're realizing that it's not about gold and silver and money. That is not what is important. Knowledge and understanding is key. The society has made it so that we look at other things as being important or social status based on these certain things like money, fame, things like that. But you're going to see that once the Greeks or the Gentiles got their opportunity to be on top, that they weren't worried about money and gold and status as much as they were worried about information. All the time you hear about these guys going around and burning books and getting rid of books, and like they had so many books themselves. They didn't have all this information. Our people had done a great job of keeping this information away from the other nations because that was our job. But once we were taken down, they had an opportunity to take our books and get understanding for themselves. And they've been giving us everything else to keep us entertained while they've been going through and scouring our books and gaining knowledge and understanding. That's why they give you religion. That's why they give you sports. They give you games. They give you reality TV shows. Everything is to keep the masses, occupied so that they can get a hold of our books and our information, and they can try their best to try to learn it without having to be distracted about worrying about the masses. We're going to take a quick look right now at the how the formation of the Alexandrian Library happened. See, many people just seem to think that the Greeks have always, these ancient Greeks and all these other Greeks have always had this information. But you're going to see that they have not always had this information. And once they finally got the blessing to be able to go around and start to jack everyone else's lands, and the first, many times when these guys were taking over lands and taking over cities, their first stop would be the libraries. They don't talk about that in the movies, but these guys were going around and jacking books and information because they weren't exposed to it, which would make sense. They didn't have the power, and they know that, knowledge is power. They know this. This is why they went out of their way to make sure that you don't have any power or any knowledge. That's why they limit you to only one book that they have approved for you. Think of how much more power you'll have when you have more puzzle pieces. And you can bring those puzzle pieces to the table. And you can get more knowledge and understanding when you start putting the puzzle together. Do you want just a little 24-piece puzzle? Or do you want the 1,000-piece puzzle? Do you want the 2,000-piece puzzle? Do you want the puzzle that, maybe 5 to 10 of you can come together and put the pieces together and do like a 10,000-piece puzzle? See, the people in religions, they're stuck on their little 24-piece puzzle, and then they want to say things like they have all the understanding. They have 100% truth. Yeah, you have 100% truth on a 24-piece puzzle. And if you think that that's all there is, then hey, have at it. Have fun with that. But let's take a look and show you how important the other nations know knowledge is and books are, and how they grew this library of Alexandria to such an enormous size. I love this picture right here. Just looking at all the books. And, you know, if they didn't think the books were important, why would they be going out of their way to collect them? Why would they be trying to make these absolutely enormous libraries? And why were they paying all these people all this money for these books? You know, how you think that they've gone out all over the place looking for these books and bringing them all to one central location. But then they tell you that you only get 66 books, you know, that can fit into one book. But they're getting all this other knowledge and understanding. Let's take a look here real fast. We're going to take a look at this book, The History of the Conflict Between Religion and Science by John William Draper. Okay? Take a look here at the bottom paragraph. Well, hold on here. The Alexandrian Museum was commenced by Ptolemy Soter and was completed by his son, Ptolemy Philadelphus. It was situated in the Bruchion, the aristocratic quarter of the city, adjoining the king's palace, built of marble. It was surrounded with a piazza in which the residents might walk and converse together. Its sculpted apartments contained the Philadelphian Library and were crowded with the choicest statues and pictures. This library eventually comprised 400,000 volumes. I mean, that's absolutely massive. 400,000 volumes. But hey, you Negroes only read 66 books. You Latinos only read 66 books. As we amass 400,000 volumes. But that's not even it. In the course of time, probably on account of inadequate accommodation for so many books, an additional library was established in the adjacent quarter, Riacotis, and placed in the Serapeum, or Temple of Serapis. The number of volumes in this library, which was called the daughter of that in the museum, was eventually 300,000. So there were, therefore, 700,000 volumes in these royal collections. Now, they're going to show you how they were getting all these volumes and what they were doing to get them. Now, look, history tries to make it seem as if the Greeks were the ones that had all this information. If they had this information, why would they have to be going all over the place collecting these books? Because, see, they did not have this information before. Not until the Most High raised them up and gave them their opportunity were they able to now get exposed to this information. So this whole thing about the ancient Greeks and ancient Greek mythology and things like that, they didn't have any of that. These guys were new kids on the block, barely got this information, and try to make it and have gone out of their way to try to, you know, elevate themselves as being people who are the originators of this information, when that's not the case. It says Alexandria was not merely the capital of Egypt. It was the intellectual metropolis of the world. Here, it was truly said, the genius of the East met the genius of the West. And this Paris of antiquity became a focus of fashionable dissipation, okay, and universal skepticism. In the allurements of its bewitching society, even the Jews forgot their patriotism. They abandoned the language of their forefathers and adopted Greek. Okay, and this is, of course, they don't tell you why they abandoned, you know, their forefathers' language and started speaking Greek and adopted Greek, was because they were forced to. The Greeks, that's why you go into the book of Maccabees. This is why this was, you know, hidden. So they're not telling you why, you know, the Jews forgot their patriotism. They didn't forget it because of the city of Alexandria. They had to forget it because of Antiochus Epiphanes. Because he made them abandon the ways of their father at the point of a sword. Because if they did not, they were killed. See, this goes back to the establishment of the church again, right? When they established their churches, They didn't want the Israelites practicing their customs anymore. They forced them to join the churches because the churches were now, pretty much elevating themselves to be the new Jews. The ones that really had the covenant were now the Gentiles. And they didn't want the competition of the true Israelites actually following their ways. So even when you see things like this about they abandoned the language of their forefathers and adopted Greek, they're not telling you that they were forced to. And this is why you need to read the book of Maccabees in order to get an understanding. See, they put these things in these books, but if you don't read those other books, you won't have the understanding as to why. They're trying to imply like, oh, it's because this city was just so great and there was just so much information that the Jews just forgot about, their own patriotism for their own people. And they just, went and adopted Greek just because, of these libraries, this information, like they didn't have it before. See, you already were getting that. We already had that information. It wasn't anything new to us. This was new to you. And you wanted to portray yourselves as, the bringers of knowledge and understanding. And you don't want the Israelites around saying, hey, you guys just got this information. We've known this forever. They don't want that. So therefore, force us to walk away from our traditions and make it illegal for us to follow our ways. It says, in the establishment of the museum, Ptolemy Soter and his son Philadelphus had three objects in view. Number one, the perpetuation of such knowledge as was then in the world, its increase and its diffusion. For the perpetuation of knowledge, orders were given to the chief librarian. Okay, now check this out. This is how they grew their libraries, okay? To buy at the king's expense whatever books he could. Well, if they already had this information, why would they have to go around buying books? You see what I'm saying? A body of transcribers was maintained in the museum, whose duty it was to make correct copies of such works as their owners were not disposed to sell. Okay, so they didn't want to sell it. They just make copies of them, all right? Any books brought by foreigners into Egypt were taken at once to the museum. And when correct copies had been made, the transcript was given to the owner and the original placed in the library. So that's what they were doing. Hey, you got any books? What do you have to proclaim right here? Oh, you got some books? Let me see these books. Okay, we're going to take these to the museum. We're going to copy those, and we'll give you the copies, and we'll keep the originals. This is how they grew their libraries. Okay? Often a large pecuniary indemnity was paid. Thus, it is said of Ptolemy Euergetes that having obtained from Athens the works of Euripides, Sophocles, and Aeschylus, he sent to their owners transcripts, together with about $15,000 as an indemnity. Now that goes also back to Psalms 83. They work with each other. They compensate each other because they're still all working together. These Gentiles got their opportunity. They started bringing these books together, bringing this information together, and they're taking care of each other. See, with our people, they just went and just jacked the stuff. They just went and just took the stuff. They weren't giving no money. They weren't doing any of that. Just like with slavery. When slavery was ended, they went and gave the slave owners compensation because they're all part of that Psalms 83 group. Hey, you're taking away my property. You're taking away my way of making money. Oh, don't worry. We'll take care of it. We'll give you the money. We'll give you some money. We'll pay you for those slaves. We'll compensate you for that. But the actual people who did all the work, you get nothing. This shows you who's a part of the Psalms 83 conglomerate and who's not. Okay? So $15,000 as an indemnity. On his return from the Syrian expedition, he carried back in triumph all the Egyptian monuments from Ecbatana and Susa, which Cambyses and other invaders had removed from Egypt. These he replaced in their original seats or added as adornments to his museums. When works were translated, as well as transcribed, sums which we should consider as almost incredible were paid, as was the case with the Septuagint translation of the Bible, ordered by Ptolemy Philadelphus. See, they're just giving out money. because they understand that knowledge has power. Having all these 700,000 volumes in their libraries allows them to act as if they're like the philosophers, and they're able to just go back and, talk about ideas and philosophy and things like that, which just elevates their status. Everyone wants to go to Alexandria in order to see these libraries and, and marvel at the Greeks and all the great understanding and knowledge that they have. You see what I'm saying? They love that. They love being in that kind of a position. Until now, and the Most High is now exposing them. Okay? For the increase of knowledge, one of the chief objects of the museum was that of serving as the home of a body of men who devoted themselves to study and were lodged and maintained at the king's expense. Occasionally, he himself sat at their table. Anecdotes connected with those festive occasions have descended to our time. In the original organization of the museum, the residents were divided into 4 faculties: literature, mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. See, they're getting into all these different areas, just like colleges today. They used to have all these people that were actually there, studying, thousands and thousands of them. Let's continue. Minor branches were appropriately classified under one of these general heads. Thus, natural history was considered to be a branch of medicine. An officer of very great distinction presided over the establishment and had general charge of its interests. Demetrius Phaleras, perhaps the most learned man of his age, who had been governor of Athens for many years, was the first so appointed. Under him was the librarian, an office sometimes held by men whose names have descended to our times as Eratosthenes and Apollonius Rhodius. In connection with the museum were a botanical and a zoological garden. These gardens, as their names import, were for the purpose of facilitating the study of plants and animals. So they knew exactly they were learning about the importance of plants and animals and what you could use plants for and things like that. There was also an astronomical observatory containing armillary spheres, globes, solstitial and equatorial armals, astrolabes, parallactic rules, and other apparatus then in use. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, this is their opportunity to ascend and set up these, this college and be able to disseminate all this information and elevate themselves as being, in the hierarchy of knowledge and understanding. So this is all new. This is all new to the Greeks. As you can see, they're working on compiling their information. And this is around 300 BC, in the 300 BCs. And, so it's not like they were doing this stuff before. And it just shows you that this information was new to them. But it also should show you how important knowledge is. They've gone out of their way to keep you from studying, to keep you from learning, while they've been taking your information, taking your knowledge for themselves and studying it. I said, hey, as you can tell, the more knowledge you have, the less detractors you have. When you bring receipts and you bring out information, people don't say anything. And, you can't just have an opinion with no facts. Not with us. Not with the group of people that are here. You better bring, if you're going to say something, you better make sure you bring some receipts. You better not bring, well, the Bible, this one verse says this, and from the Bible, so therefore, everything you're saying is false. I'm like, okay, if that's your interpretation, you go ahead and run with that. But all the while, the people that you say you hate so much, they're reading other books. They're accumulating other information. All the while telling you not to do so, not to learn, not to study for yourself. Even though your own Bible tells you to study to show thyself approved. Why would he be telling you that? Because the Most High knows how important information is, how important learning is, how chasing the Father is talking about growing your knowledge and understanding. Chasing the Father is like growing mentally and spiritually and chasing after the Father. That's what you're supposed to be doing. not being complacent. And, and depending on whatever it is that the Most High puts in your heart, you'll always have plenty to learn. You'll always have those aha moments, and you'll be growing every single day. And that's all part of this wonderful journey is, you find your niche, you find what the Most High has blessed you with, and you chase him 100% with that. All praise is the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.